What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bluegrass State of Mind, the show where three college roommates talk life, sports, and all the ridiculous things that happen in an apartment we like to refer to as Room 302. We're bringing you stories, hot takes, and the kind of late-night debates that probably should have stayed in the group chat.
So grab your headphones, sit back, and get ready for a wild ride through our past college life, sports, and everything in between. Let's get into it. This is Bluegrass State of Mind.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. If you are joining us via stream or audio, regardless where you're coming from, we appreciate you all hopping on here and listening to us. Fellas, it's March Madness. It is time. We've talked about it. The most wonderful time. The anticipation is here. The build-up for the regular season, college basketball's finest moment is finally back. It is March Madness time. One thing I wanted to make note of for everybody that is listening to the podcast is that we currently are doing a bracketology bracket. We have shared that on Facebook and Instagram. So click that link and hop on and fill out a bracket. If you do get first place, you will get some free merchandise. You'll get the choice of a hoodie. I think Colton is maybe Are you rocking it, Colton? Yeah, we both are. You can either get a hoodie, a crew neck, or a hat if you don't want that. And then second and third place, you will receive a hat. So share that with friends. And yeah, it's free stuff. So go ahead and fill out a bracket. As you can see, if you're watching, and soon to be, you will be hearing, we have a guest with us. Mr. Treg Turner is on here tonight. We might be getting another guest on later on if they hop on with us, but regardless, the show goes on. It's going to be a good episode. Tonight, just a little pathway of just what tonight's going to look like. We're going to break down, looking at Kentucky's roadmap to success in the NCAA tournament. Going to look at each region, some upsets, some just highlights of what, when the brackets came out, kind of what was something that stood out to us. Then we'll get into a memorable moment that we have for NCAA tournament time, and then what does maybe life look like after the tournament for Kentucky basketball. So to kick things off, before we actually get into the pathway for Kentucky, I thought this was a good question for us to start things off for tonight. So obviously, yes, we know Kentucky, what they drew, who their matchup is, where they're playing, their seeding, but taking that out of consideration, what is the realistic expectation that we and all Kentucky fans should probably have without knowing our matchups and seeding and who we will be playing and where it will be played at? So take that away. Imagine that we don't know that is appeared and we can see that. What is it as the expectation should Kentucky have? And I'm going to start things off with Mason. I'll let you kick things off tonight. So what is it that would be a realistic expectation and a success for us?
I think everything considered with the way this season has went, the injuries we've had, how we've played at times, we've shown that we can beat anybody in the country, but we've also shown we can lose anybody. So I think taking away everything, not looking at matchups and what our road actually is. I think the expectation has to be a Sweet 16, just because, like I said, we have shown that we can beat anybody, but we just never know what team we're going to get. So if we come out and play how we're supposed to, I think that Sweet 16 is a pretty reasonable expectation for this team.
Treg, where are your thoughts on that?
To a level, I agree with him, with Mason. My expectation will always be Final Four. But does that mean, is this team a failure if they do not make it? I would say, based upon the season that we've had, no. I do think it's Sweet 16. I was talking with somebody today. I would check the box for Pope on that. If he got us to a Sweet 16, I would be happy with it. But the expectation, the standard is still Final Four.
Colton, let me rephrase the question a little bit. What if we don't get to a Sweet 16? Because, Mason and Treg both have said, kind of that would be like the expectation and a success for this Kentucky team. But would the overall fan base as a whole, do you think would they accept that is a good season for us, where we are currently at with the losses that we've had as far as players go, the up and down season that we've been through? do you think the overall fan base would be happy with the Sweet 16, or would it be, uh, the fan base of just like, what, are we kidding me? We're Kentucky, that thing that we always have to deal with.
Yeah, so two parts of that. One, rewind back to the beginning of the season. Now that you knew how much money you spent on the roster, knowing what you felt like you lacked last year and how like the roster should have been constructed this year, knowing that you didn't get some of these freshman phenoms because maybe you spent more money on building your team as a deeper team, right? Maybe you wanted to build more guys instead of having like one spending it on more stud. And considering you went and got a guy coming off an ACL injury, based on what your expectations were before the start of the season, if you get to a Sweet 16 that won't and then lose, it's not going to be good enough. Fast forward to the rest of the season, knowing the type of team we have after injuries, but overall just looking at the type of team that we have now, that we realize we probably don't have as deep a team and as much talent. I mean, to me, realistically, is it going to surprise anyone that we don't? I mean, like, I think we all figured we were going to fall in that 6, 7, 8 seed. So now, like, you're going to play a team that is much better than you in the second game. So that's not saying that we can't win it or that we shouldn't at least be very competitive in it. But if you lose in the next game and don't make it to the Sweet 16, I don't think it's kind of like because realistically, this team is not probably built to win a championship. I hope they make a run, but it's realistically they're not.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that we are built to win a championship this year. One thing I think that is worth noting, though, from my perspective, looking at it, is that when we're talking about the overall fan base as a general, as a whole, I think, as much as we like to look at ourselves, a lot of things that we do collectively as a fan base that I'm talking about here is that we look at other teams and we like to compare ourselves. So as much as, you look at us and like what we do, I think a lot of what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of comparison. I hate bringing it up, obviously, but we're going to look at, okay, how did Arkansas do? We're going to look at Duke. Like that's something we're always going to be doing, is comparing ourselves to other teams. So if it was a case that some of these big blue bloods go out early and don't make that Final Four, then it might be one of those scenarios where we're like, okay, it wasn't as bad a season. And whether that's fair or not, that's just what we do as a collective whole. We like to compare ourselves because we ultimately say that we are the standard. But I would agree that, a Sweet 16, I think, would be a success. Granted, looking at where we were in SEC play starting 0-2, we've been up and down in the valleys, at the peaks, going on an 8-game winning streak. And it's just been kind of the unpredictables. That's what they've been called. So I think a Sweet 16 would definitely be a success for us. But now let's get into the breakdown of Kentucky's path. So we know our matchup. We will be playing on Friday, 11 a.m. in St. Louis, and our matchup is going to be the number 10 seed Santa Clara. Obviously, your Kentucky Wildcats. We come in with a record of 21-13. The Santa Clara Broncos are going to be representing the West Coast Conference, and they come in with a record of 26-8. Just a couple of stats here, and then we'll get into the breakdown of this Santa Clara team. But looking at this Santa Clara team, they are averaging 82.9 points a game. They are shooting it at the 3-point strike at 34.6%. They average 35.7 rebounds a game. One thing to note is they do average 10.13 made threes a game. They make 10.1 threes a game. So they do shoot it at a high clip from the 3-point line as a whole. They also, I thought this was very interesting, they average 9.2 more field goal attempts per game than their opponents, which is ranked third in D1. So they get shots up. Looking at some of their star players and breaking them down, they are led by their 6'4" guard, Christian Hammond. He averages 15.8 points and 2.4 assists. Then they have a 6'7" forward, Elijah Mai, who averages 13.9 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 2.6 assists. They also have another 6'9" forward, Alan Graves, who averages 11.6 points and 6.5 rebounds. And they also have another guard at 6'3", Sosh, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, who averages 8.8 points and 2.6 assists. I want to start with Mason on this because, Mason, as soon as we got our pick, you was one that was like, oh, no. You was like, the 110 seed that I did not want us to be matched up with. I want a little bit of, I want you to kind of explain of why. You said that you've watched them a little bit this year. I can't really say that I have watched them other than the fact of what I went and done some research on them. But what is kind of overall your thoughts on, this matchup for the first round with it being in St. Louis, which is good for us. I feel like Big Blue's going to be able to make that trip not too far away for us. So we did get a favorable location. And when you talk about that, where we're going to be playing.
Yep. So I will start off by saying this. Like, I'm gonna go through some of their stats, and I completely understand. Like, the teams that they're playing all season long are not the level of competition that we have played, right? So maybe a little bit skewed in that. But I've also watched them play Gonzaga. That they have played Gonzaga. They play Gonzaga well every time. And just a couple of stats coming from them. I told Colton 2 weeks ago, I think I saw something, had us projected with Santa Clara, and I was like, oh no. I was like, I do not want Santa Clara. And I think it was like maybe the night that they played Gonzaga in the conference tournament or something, they were up for a lot of the game. Gonzaga ended up pulling it off and ended up beating them. But Santa Clara, they are a very, very high tempo offense. So they're number 23 in Ken Palm offensive efficiency. So they like to get up and down the court, like to run. They also have a very high offensive rebounding percentage, which we have struggled with in games this season. All right, I think they're top 25 in the nation in that. They also like to press. All right, so they're 22nd in defensive turnover rate. Another thing that we have struggled with this year. Right, we know that outside of Aberdeen, our other guards don't really take care of the ball well. They set a lot of ball screens. All right, we've struggled against defending ball screens this year, pick and rolls. And they're going to shoot a ton of threes. And that always scares me in March, right? If a team can get hot and start knocking down some threes, that really, really scares me. And I feel like a lot of these things just play into the fact that really are our weaknesses, right? So let's say they press. Like, they're a high pressing team. By the time we get the ball across half court and get set up in an offense, we're going to have, 15 to 20 seconds left? We already struggle in half court offense. So what are we going to do? Swing the ball around the key one time, and then we're going to have somebody try to go one-on-one? We've seen that's when we go through these scoring droughts. And you have Santa Clara, who, if they're missing shots, they have a high offensive rebounding rate. Happened to us against Florida, right? Like, Florida didn't shoot the ball great. We didn't shoot the ball great, but they rebounded almost every miss that they had. So it really scares me. And I was also looking at something else that we have the best 10 seed based on Ken Palm out of the bracket. So Santa Clara was 35th in Ken Palm. Texas A&M was 39th. Missouri was 52nd, and UCF was 54th. So we're facing the best 10 seed per Ken Palm metrics in the bracket.
Colton, looking at, I've been watching a lot of, the CBS network talking about breaking down the whole bracket in general, and every person that's talking about the 10-7 that I've watched see that's going to be the upset is picking Santa Clara. I've seen some say that when you look at this Santa Clara team, they won 26 games. Like, it's not oh, they shouldn't have got in. Like, they absolutely deserve to get in. Then also, seeing some, like, when you ever talk about the Cinderella, there's been a couple of them I've seen, like, this could be one of your Cinderella teams that, go to maybe an Elite Eight possibly. But when looking at this, you had quite a different perspective, which is good. You said couldn't ask for a better draw. So kind of what was your mindset and thinking on that whenever you sent that, and that may have been with or without considering and looking in deep into Santa Clara. It may have been more of just looking the overall picture of our road to the Sweet 16. So kind of explain that thought process.
Yeah, so Santa Clara is obviously a good team, and I'm like Mason. The times I watched them, it ended up coming against Gonzaga, which they played pretty tough. Obviously, we know what Gonzaga did to us. I would hope that if we played Gonzaga again, it would not be like that. But it was pretty rough, that one. But I think the reason I enjoy it, because yes, they may be the top ranked 10 seed of the ones, but the reality of it is that throughout the year, outside of Gonzaga and just one or two other teams, they just
St.
don't play the
Mary's.
quality. Yeah, but still, like they just don't play the quality competition over and over again. And to me, I'm not saying they're not a good team, but I think Kentucky, like, they're not going to be a Florida. They're not going to be a Tennessee in my eyes. They're not going to be those, like, team Arkansas that you beat this year. They're not going to be those teams. And the truth is, you beat Santa Clara, and to me, the 1-2 seed that I thought we could for sure beat would be Iowa State, who showed some inconsistency this year. So I like their draw, and up above us, Virginia, Tennessee. We beat Tennessee twice this year. Virginia seems to play kind of similar type ball where their offense can go stagnant. They had decent defense. Hugo there. I didn't even realize till halfway through the season that Hugo was there, just absolutely dominating in blocks right now. But just looking up the overall bracket, I mean, I think you got. I mean, there's no, like, to me, there's no real dominant team. Michigan might be the closest thing, but they lost their backup point guard, lost today to Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think you got a bracket full of a bunch of teams that are not that consistent, have had very highs and lows like we have. So, I mean, maybe you make a run. I mean, that's where I looked at it. I'm like, look, I mean, and you get to play your first game in St. Louis, which is essentially a home game. Santa Clara is coming from what, California, right? So, I mean, and they're probably not. I mean, it's essentially a home game. So, to me, there's no excuses on the first game.
Treg, I want you. I got like a 2-part question for you. I want you to elaborate on the drawing of Kentucky and the pathway, but I also want you to touch on a little bit, and you can do whichever one you want first and second. But do you think that there's still like this gray cloud hovering over Kentucky in the first round because of our experience in the past 4 years? Granted, yes, we did get out of the first round last year, but being upset against St. Peter's and Oakland. And then now it's come down to a team where we're looking at that's not been consistent, that, like we've talked about multiple times on this show, that has been unpredictable. And is it fair for, the Kentucky fan to just be a little worried just because of the sense that, yeah, it's the first round, here we go again, we could get bounced? Is it worry because of actually a good matchup? Should there be any worry at all? I know that's a long list of questions, but kind of, I'd like for you to answer, like, where are you at on that state as far as, this Kentucky fan base with that gray cloud hovering over us in this first round? Because I feel like it used to not be like that.
Well, I would say first, Mason saying he's scared of Santa Clara, and I would say a lot of that probably has to do with losing to St. Peter's and Oakland. That fear strikes up. I mean, it would anybody. As far as being scared of them, no. I mean, if we can't beat Santa Clara, then we deserve what we deserve. That's just the way I look at it. Something y'all have not said about Santa Clara, though. Y'all know who their coach is?
Yep.
I did.
Coach with Patino.
He was a longtime coach at NC State, and I'm pretty sure he coached Harden at Arizona State. But yes, Patino assistant Herb Sendek, and everything Mason outlined there about him is basically Patino back in the day, right? Press, shoot the threes, offensive rebounds. One stat I did see about him, though, is they foul a ton.
I saw that as well.
That we could have that going for us. But as far as the matchup itself, I like it. I want to play somebody that's up tempo, because I think that gets Oway going, man. If we can get up and down the court and get Oway going, maybe Chandler gets lost a few times and he gets open, shoots the threes. But as far as being scared of them, no, I'm not really scared of them, because once again, if we can't beat Santa Clara, then we deserve what we get, just like we got against Oakland and St. Peter's.
Yeah.
But the whole bracket, like Colton said, I mean, what more could you ask for? If you're going to make a run, I don't think you could ask for anything better.
I think it's something important to note too. Mason, you mentioned about looking at this Santa Clara team, that they get it up and they get it fast, on fast break stuff. And I think that's what we played on our last game with Florida. And I thought we done a much better job, looking at whenever we played them 2 weeks ago at home, where they outscored us in fast break points. It was like 20 or something to like 4. And, the roles reversed. We was right there with them in fast break points. So just that prep in general. And again, that even goes back to Colton's point, like the teams that we've been playing are not the caliber teams that they are playing every week as far as conference play. And, it's just looking at it as a whole, like, yes, this is a Santa Clara team that comes out of the Western Conference. Like, we should win this game. For all those who are picking, Santa Clara to upset us, like that is not. That's not the standard, obviously. Like, so there should be no fear. We're going to have home court advantage being in St. Louis. So, yeah, I agree with everything you all said. But looking just a little
Hey,
bit
I want to say
further.
this.
Go
I
ahead.
want to say this real quick. As far as the 10 seeds that we could draw, we were never going to draw Missouri or A&M because they're in their conference. So my
Yeah.
question would you rather have Santa Clara where we're at, or would you rather have UCF and be in the East region?
Oh, I'd rather
Yeah.
be in this bracket for sure.
Oh, 100%.
So, I mean, I think that's our answer as far as
Yeah, I agree.
the
I think
draw.
after the first game, we got the best bracket we could have asked for. It's just like everything this team does well is what we have struggled against this season. So, it's almost like if they come out and play well, then, it's one of those mid majors. You see these Cinderella runs.
Is JQ going to play?
not
I'm
I've
not
not
gonna hold
seen
my
any.
breath.
Have y'all seen reports of something? I've not seen anything.
Oh yeah, there was
I've seen
somewhat
some stuff
reports
floating
before the
around.
Florida game, but
Because
I
that
don't
could
know.
change a lot if he does. If we can get 10 minutes a game out of him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we did get Cam back, and I think that was just a little warm up. Hopefully, he comes. Obviously, he was not himself whenever he got hurt. But looking a little bit deeper, though, okay. So let's say that we do win this game, and then looking at it further than that, matching up, probably going to be playing an Iowa State. Don't really see Tennessee State knocking them off, but they could. I think that's, Colton, you'd already talked a little bit about it, so go on a little bit more depth, then we'll get into each region. But looking into this Iowa State Kentucky matchup, if we were to proceed, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, obviously, but it's just good to talk about. You've said like this is the best 2 seed we could have drawn, because other than that, it was either going to be a Houston, a UConn, or a Purdue. I mean, I just feel like they're here, and then Iowa State's down here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think that's the matchup. I mean, you couldn't have asked for better, because the one thing when I look at the way we play and the style we play, I just think that besides Alabama, I think the majority of the top teams in our bracket play a similar style. So that means if you can play it a little better than they do, then you got a chance. I mean, Alabama's the one team that they're the highest scoring team in the nation. They just shoot the ball so well, and it's hard for us because we can be limited on offense at times. But we wouldn't see them until at least the Elite Eight, and so I would take my chances with this bracket over the others for sure.
Yeah. Well, then let's get into the breakdown of each region. Obviously, I said beforehand, we're not going to go over every single game because of time, but we are going to talk about maybe some highlights and just what we've seen whenever they were coming out. A couple of fun facts for you all, though. So there were 10 SEC teams that were in the tournament this year, which led all conferences. So, shout out to the Southeastern Conference. A 2 seed has not reached a title game since 2016. And then the 5 seed is the highest seed to never win a title. As far as, like going, okay, you've seen a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, but a 5 seed has never actually won a title, looking at that as being the highest seed to never actually win one left. All right, so now let's break it down a little bit. We're going to kick things off in the East region, and we're going to start with Mason and Colton. You all kind of break down. It doesn't matter who goes first. Y'all can feed off each other. But looking at that, I think we all had the same mindset, but go for it.
Go ahead, Bulldog.
Yeah, so I'll just do a point or two. Obviously, Duke leading off as the number 1 overall seed. Couple big things that we looked at initially in this bracket was one, St. John's as a 5 seed. We felt was very, very not like very high for what we thought that I thought they were going to be at least a 3.
Yeah.
The way they've been playing, to me, I think St. John's right now is at least a top 8 team in the nation. The way that they have been playing, they absolutely destroyed UConn in the conference championship game last Saturday night. So, to me, they got an unfortunate draw, which is also kind of unfortunate for Duke to have to possibly play them in the Sweet 16. But also looking at another big point is this region is full of just absolute Hall of Fame coaches, stud coaches. I mean, you're looking at Shire, Duke, Patino. You have Kansas in the same bracket with Bill Self. You have Tom Izzo, Michigan State, and you've got Dan Hurley at UConn. I mean, that's all in the same bracket. Like to me, that's the toughest bracket by far. I mean, I right now, you can the top 5 seeds. I feel like any of the top 5 seeds could win that bracket. I really do.
Somebody's gonna underachieve.
You're right. I mean, that conversation is going to be had, and that's going to be a crazy conversation. But that's the first few things I want to point out. What do you like, Mason?
Yeah, no, like you said, I feel like the committee just completely botched this bracket here. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Like you're looking at it was down to pretty much Connecticut and Florida as the last number 1 overall seed, right? And
Yeah.
UConn gets a 2 seed and gets placed in the number 1 overall seed. And then we already talked about St. John's. Duke has some injuries right now, and I'll be honest with you, like looking at these 8-9 matchups of these other brackets as well, like Ohio State's played some people tough this year. Like they beat some good teams. They played some people tough. I feel like that's not going to be an easy matchup for Duke as well, just because of some of the injuries they've sustained here lately. Like we've seen them struggle here the last few games, right? Like Florida State had a chance to win it at the buzzer. They handled Clemson pretty easily, and then you had the Virginia game, right? I mean that one came down to the wire there. So that'll be interesting to see there with the Duke and Ohio State. If Ohio State wins, I think they have a better chance than TCU does. I do think TCU's had some good wins and they can get hot, but they also struggle at times. And then, like you said, Colton, I really like St. John's in this. Kansas wise, they're so hit or miss, and with Darren Peterson being up and down, they rely so much on Darren Peterson. And I feel like St. John's is so physical and athletic. They can just kind of frustrate and kind of mess the game up and make it ugly against Kansas. But the bottom part down there, I think Colton, you mentioned earlier, if you want to talk about the one upset you really liked in this bracket.
Yeah. So just looking at obviously upsets are some of the things you look at March Madness, and to me, I think St. John that's a 5-12. People like to talk about the 5-12. I think St. John's is more like a 3 or a 2 seed, so I think they handle Northern Iowa. Other than that, but the one upset that I could see is South Florida. They are a very good team. They ran through their conference, number 1 seed, won the championship, beat Wichita State in the championship game by 15. Like they are a very, very good team, and they're one of those teams that they don't play necessarily the top teams throughout the year, but they play pretty good teams consistently throughout the year, more than what Santa Clara probably plays outside of Gonzaga. And so that's a team to go with the record they have. And Louisville's just it all going to come down to Mikael Brown. If you get a top 5 pick Mikael Brown and a healthy Mikael Brown, then you should be able to handle. But if you don't, I mean, South Florida is going to be a tough one to handle there. So to me, that's the biggest upset. But that's a stud bracket, and I could not tell you who's gonna come out of it. So
yeah. I think everybody was shocked, even whenever they came out with it. You seen the commentators on whenever St. John's was the 5 seed, they were like, "Whoa, didn't see that coming." Like, so even like your, I guess, your analysts who are watching every single game in and out, your professionals, like they were even shocked. So I think that for sure is the highlight of that region. Flipping now to the West region, Treg, what are some of your thoughts on the West region?
All right. I think everybody on earth is picking Arizona to win it all. And contrary to what Mason believes, I do admit when I'm wrong. And I was wrong on Arizona. I thought it was kind of fool's gold at the beginning of the season. Boy, was I wrong. They're the real deal. And I'm pretty sure was Purdue not the number 1 ranked team coming into the season?
yeah.
Yep.
So, you got them two. Purdue's on a high right now. What are you going to get out of BYU? Who knows? Wisconsin's offense is, since that new coach has got theirs, it's a completely different team. That'll be interesting. Hawaii's probably going to upset Arkansas. No, I'm just kidding. Shout out, Shout out, Cal. My upset in the bracket, though, I'm going pretty quickly through this. My upset in the bracket will be Missouri as the 10 over Miami. I
Yeah, I
just
want to
think
elaborate more on that too. I don't know if you realize this, but I was watching. I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's a great point." You look at that Missouri, and if you're a Miami team and you're even a Purdue, I would be very, very upset because that's being played in St. Louis for the first and second round. So you're talking about a home game pretty much in St. Louis being in or Missouri being there. So you have a Jay Lucas who was on a Cal staff not long ago, then went to Duke. Now he's at Miami. But having to travel all the way to St. Louis and then even a Purdue, like you just put us there. Let's say that we were that 2 seed, and we was having to go all the way to the West to play. I don't know,
UCLA or something.
UCLA or USC. And like, I just think the committee really screwed over Miami and even Purdue right there, because if Missouri, that's my big upset there too. But they're going to be seeing another home game with Purdue, and I'm sure there will be some fans who come in from Indiana. But I mean, it's in their backyard, so I do think that was a big mishap. Before we move on from this region, though, I do, Trey, and Colton, you can elaborate on it too, Mason, you as well. But I feel like we got to look at this Arkansas team who is playing really good basketball right now. I know that they have, they had some tough matchups, barely won against Ole Miss, had to go into overtime, Vanderbilt. But I mean, is this a opportunity that you see an Arkansas team possibly make a run? We've talked about it all year long with it being guards win in March. And when you talk about guards, Darius Acuff is at the top of it all. He does it all. Had an outstanding SEC tournament, was the SEC Player of the Year as a freshman. Let's start things off, though, with Trey. Do you see that this is a chance that you see Arkansas getting to an Elite Eight? Obviously, they would have to go through Arizona probably to do that.
I think they'll play them in the Sweet 16, but I don't think they're good enough to beat Arizona.
Or Sweet 16.
I don't think they have the depth. Acuff will keep them in it for a little while, but Arizona runs a lot of bodies at you that are they're a well-oiled machine. They're a lot better than I thought they were, and I don't see Arkansas getting past Arizona.
Anybody else want to elaborate?
Yeah, no, I think he said it there. I've said it for the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Arkansas, Acuff, Thomas, like they've got some really good guards. They have some good role players at the bigs. They don't get enough offense normally. Brazil is probably pretty much their only offense at somewhat of a big. But with Carter Knox going down, to me, if they had Knox, I would sit there and have a better feeling, because I do not think they'll shoot the ball the way they did today. Now, if they shoot the three the way they did today, then yeah, they probably could. Because Acuff is the real deal, and they are going to be physical and they are big. Arizona's so physical and big too. I think foul trouble would be a problem for Arkansas. I just don't think they have enough to get past Arizona. Would it surprise me if they get to Elite Eight? No. But I do like their matchup against Hawaii and possibly a Wisconsin.
Jaden Bradley's injury could come into play there, though. If it's something more.
If
but
it's
how does Arkansas match up to Koa Pete?
I don't. I mean, to me, I don't know who. I mean, I'm assuming Billy Richmond probably tries to guard him. Maybe Brazil, but Arkansas is big and athletic though. Like, I mean, that's what they're built on too. So I'm not going to say they couldn't. I think Arizona, to me, is a top 2 favorite right now, probably in my eyes. So,
yep. I want to throw one more matchup out there though, before you go on. That Texas NC State matchup. If Texas gets by NC State, they can beat BYU.
Oh yeah, I think BYU's hit or miss. I mean, if the Bonzas don't have a career game, like I think they're relying on him right now to drop essentially 35 or 40 to win. or else they're just average.
I just remembered it. It's got TBD on my bracket here I'm looking at, but I know that's who's in that matchup.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that completes the West region. Getting into the South region. So, when I was looking at the South region, obviously starting with number one Florida, um, possible rematch of Vanderbilt. Looking at that because I just don't see a way Clemson or Iowa either one beats a Florida. You could have an upset with McNeese State playing Vanderbilt, but I think that Vanderbilt and Tanner and who's that other guard they got back?
Duke
What's his
Miles.
name? Yeah, Duke Miles. He is playing much better than he was when we played against him at home. But I'm seeing a Florida Vanderbilt matchup to move into the Elite Eight. And, I think that Vanderbilt handles them. It's going to be kind of their revenge game. One thing, though, that's very interesting is looking at the number 4 Nebraska and 13 Troy seed. Looking at that, Nebraska has never won an NCAA tournament game. Never. So you talked about the year that they had. I think they started out the season winning 20 in a row. So you talk about some pressure. You've done your job. You had a great regular season. You made it to the NCAA tournament, but now there's real pressure that you've never experienced before because you still haven't won that game. So I would be on lookout for that matchup because whenever you get nervous, especially in March, anything can happen. So that would be one to watch out for. Moving on down, another thing that I have wrote down is Akron. Akron is 0-7 so far. They have never won, or they're 0-7 so far. So I would be on lookout for that. And then the last thing is I think Houston has a cakewalk to get where they need to be, in my opinion. I think that their cakewalk to the Elite Eight is I just don't see Texas A&M, St. Mary's, Illinois, North Carolina, VC, or Penn State either, or Pennsylvania, either one. So looking at the 2 seeds, I think that they got the best draw that they could have had. I just don't foresee anybody matching up well with them, especially if they can shoot the ball well. If Flemings gets hot, I think that he's been a great, one of the best guards in the nation all year long. His defense is a little bit of liability, but I don't see it. Any other thoughts on that bracket?
I like VCU over North Carolina. I think VCU is a mid-major that was in between. Like, it was actually on that. Like, they were flirting with that last 4 in before they went on and won. North Carolina obviously going into the tournament without Caleb Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I could see VCU making it an ugly game because they're very big and athletic. Not having Caleb Wilson down there to kind of overcome that. I could see VCU. They like to run. They're fast. I think that would be my upset of that bracket.
Actually, I misspoke. Akron is not in that one. It's in the other bracket we're about to get to. But anything else before we get to the Midwest?
Nope.
All right, so shifting gears to the Midwest bracket with Michigan being the overall seed. Mason, what is something that you're looking at? And then I'll get to my point. We can kind of all pitch in on this one. Kind of what are some of the matchups you're looking at for this region in the Midwest?
Yep. So I think first thing jumps out here. I think Michigan got a great draw here. I think Georgia and St. Louis, like I've watched St. Louis here recently. They're not playing well right now. And I think they struggle, have been struggling here recently. I think Georgia probably wins that game just because, St. Louis's best player is Avila, and I really don't see how he's going to handle Santos Surreal down low. I think Surreal's just going to have his way, and it's going to be hard for Avila to get anything going. So I like Georgia in that first matchup there. Dylan, I'll leave Akron for you. Alabama Hofstra is an interesting one. I've seen some people talking about that. Haven't done a whole lot of research yet on Hofstra, but keep an eye on that one. And then the Tennessee playing the winner of Miami, Ohio, and SMU. I think Tennessee has a pretty easy first round matchup there. I think they handle either one of those teams pretty easily. I think SMU is not very good. Miami, Ohio, yes, I know they've lost 1 game, but they haven't really played anybody this year. So I think Tennessee will be able to use their physicality, get through that matchup. And then, we've kind of talked about the bottom down there. I think as far as 2 seeds go, we've had the best matchup we could ask for there if we get past Santa Clara. Colton elaborated a little bit, on Iowa State and how they've had some struggles. But you look at TJ Otzelberger, and I think he's a great coach, but he hasn't had a whole lot of success in the tournament, right? Like, I think the farthest he's made it's a Sweet 16. He's known for his defensive teams. I know they got upset a couple years ago, and I think they only scored like 41 points or something, or 43 points in a game. So they're that type of team that can struggle offensively, which I think if we get past Santa Clara bodes well for us, right? We go through these droughts. So if we can get matched up with a team like that, eliminate our droughts, I think that's the best matchup we could ask for there for the 2 seed.
Yeah, getting back to my Akron, Texas Tech thing, what I was mentioning about that is, so looking at their matchup, Akron is the 12th seed playing the 5 seed. You look at that 5-12 matchup, I think that's one to keep an eye out on, solely because, one, Texas Tech, I know they've been battling the whole season or half of the season without their star player, JT Toppin, but in the Big 12 tournament, they did lose Christian Anderson. He did slip with a growing injury. He will be making an appearance in the NCAA tournament, so that's good news for them. However, though, it just, whenever you go down, I don't know how much that's going to actually play into his actual physical play on the floor. And then when I mentioned that Akron is 0-7, so maybe it's their time. So that would be a matchup to keep your eye out. Akron over Texas Tech. Trey, Colton, anything in the Midwest so far that's not been mentioned that was kind of eye opening or something you wanted to mention?
I love the fact that we're playing the first game outside the playing games on Thursday, by the way, going back to ours. I think that bodes well for us.
Yeah.
Why
But
do you say that?
just because nerves, pressure, all that. Go out there and get on the court early, play. Plus, they're having to come from California.
It'll be like a 9
It's
o'clock
like
game
9
for them.
o'clock. 9 o'clock for them.
Yep.
Colton, anything else?
No, to me, I mean, not to make it back, but I really think that we got I think that this is the weakest bracket as a whole, in the tournament. So just looking, because I think, with Michigan losing their backup point guard and Iowa State had their struggles, like I think you just have a bunch of teams that could either get hot or play terrible. So that might be absolutely perfect for us because that pretty much describes their season.
I think this is the hodgepodge bracket that anything could happen. I could see
Yeah.
if like you said, Cyril, man, if he goes nuts, if they beat St. Louis and he goes nuts against Michigan, they could knock them off with the way
Yeah.
they've been scoring the ball.
They got the guards too that can shoot it.
So I mean, I could see Bama making the Final Four. You could see Iowa State making it. I mean, if we got past Iowa State and somehow,
Yeah,
I mean, we could
if we got past Iowa State, I would take Tennessee or
anything can happen in this bracket. Good luck picking it.
I agree.
So if you had to overall grade the committee's job as we end this segment on collectively as a whole, what would you give their grading? And Trey, I'm going to start with you. And that's
I think
taking all regions in consideration.
I mean, just because of geography, there's going to be 2 regions that are always pretty stacked. And it seems like, in years past, it's always been the West that's always got a good draw when Gonzaga got the 1 seed out there all those years. But, y'all made mention of it. I think, St. John's could have easily been a 4. I think Arkansas winning the SEC probably knocked them out of it just because they were probably the higher of the 5s at the time. So other than that, man, the Miami, Ohio will be a debate for a while, but I thought they did a really good job. I don't see anybody that's just terribly seeded, really.
Yeah. I think overall, if I had to give them a grade, though, I would probably give them a B, maybe. And the reason why that is really it just comes down to one region. It comes down to the East region, because if we're sitting there and you are a Duke, a St. John's, a Kansas, Michigan State, or UConn fan, you're looking at like, what in the world? Like, look at this bracket. And then you look at our bracket. So I think that is really top heavy on that side. And that's, that can go into teams, coaches, however you want to look at it. I do think that is really, really jam-packed there because it's one of those like, oh, my goodness, like look at that. And then you look at us in the South or the Midwest region. So I would have to give them a B. Overall, though, as far as coming from a Kentucky's perspective, yeah, I mean, I think that it was Going to ask for better, even though we've talked a little bit about the Santa Clara matchup.
Hey, let me say something about the East region. What do you notice that's not in the East region? What do you notice?
Let me
It's not an SEC team.
There's not an SEC team because Florida was the number 4 overall one. So geography played that role with all them teams being in it with the SEC. I mean, you was never going to put Arkansas there over Kansas, you know. So
that's a good point.
I mean,
if Kentucky would have been better, or if if Florida got the number 1 overall, they could have been there. You know, if Kentucky would have been better as a 2, you might have seen them there over UConn or Michigan State. But
I think that team, like, I really think that the East has 5 teams that are better than Iowa State.
I agree.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
Well, I will say that. I will say this. I don't know, I'm not saying Iowa State's bad. I'm not saying Iowa State wouldn't beat some of these teams, but if they were playing head to head, I believe 1 through 5 in this region, Kansas would be the only one that I think. But I still think on a neutral court, like I don't. But the thing is, I don't know that I trust Iowa State. So I think I'd probably go with Darren Peterson and Bill Self. So I think I would take the top 5 teams in this region in a head-to-head matchup over Iowa State right now.
That's a tough call, man.
I
give you credit for going on the record.
Duke, UConn. Would you take UConn in the head-to-head over Iowa State?
Yep. Duke and UConn over Iowa State?
Yeah. Yeah, would you pick both of them one-on-one? Like, if they probably right now? Like, who would you take?
A healthy Duke? A healthy Duke? No, I'll take Duke.
I mean, I'm still taking Duke regardless, but
without Foster and without the big guy, I don't know, man.
But then like Texas Tech didn't have JT Toppin and went to Iowa State, beat them by 20.
Did you watch that Iowa State game against
Arizona?
Yeah, did you see that game?
Yeah, I mean
that might have been the best game all year.
But I mean, look, I'm taking St. John's the way they're playing right now. I think I'd take St. John's.
I'm not going to argue that.
So what overall grade you get them?
I mean, yeah, at the best, maybe a B-. I mean, they just, to me, I mean, and like you said, some of the sending Arkansas out west to play on Thursday after playing Sunday.
That's because they were the last 4 seed. They had no choice.
I mean,
or you're getting a 5.
So you won and you improved your seed and got kind of a crap end of the. Because essentially they should have been where Vandy was. They switched with Vandy is what happened. Vandy was ranked 17th, and Arkansas was ranked 16th in the final poll. So they switched to Vandy. So they would.
Where's Vandy playing?
The South.
Yeah, I know, but where at?
I don't have it. But
you can never put Vandy over Arkansas at that point when Arkansas beat them.
I don't have it. They're playing Oklahoma City. That's what Cal said. It's Oklahoma City. So I mean, that's much closer to Arkansas. I mean,
I see where you're coming from. Mason, what grade you gonna give them?
So,
I'm gonna give them a C+, just because of that. Listen, that East bracket to me is just crazy. I agree with what you said, Cole. Like, I think you could take Kansas is the only one that I halfway disagree with. But all those others, like 1 through 5 outside of Kansas, I think they're better than Iowa State. I do also think that Arkansas got screwed a little bit by the committee. You know, I saw a stat earlier that there are only 5 teams in college basketball this season that have 5+ KenPom top 20 wins and only 1 or fewer loss outside of the KenPom top 40. Arizona, Duke, Michigan. You know, the other 2 are
Kentucky and Arkansas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to cuss on this thing? Well, y'all are outside y'all's minds. We finally got a good draw, and y'all are giving.
I'm not talking about our draw. I'm not talking about our draw. I'm talking about everybody else. Like,
who cares about Duke and Kansas and Dan Hurley, who turned us down? Who cares?
And Arkansas. I mean, who cares?
I'm just going to grade for the committee on the overall bracket, fellas. Our draw's great if we get past that first
Arkansas
game.
to Alaska. Who cares?
All right. Well, the madness is here. It's going to start on Thursday with the playing game. Or actually, will be Thursday.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, and then it's kick off after that. So now let's get into some memorable March Madness moments. And I said it doesn't have to be Kentucky because I know that there probably will be a lot of Kentucky ones. I'm going to start off, though. I'm going to do two of them. And if you have more than one, if somebody takes yours, go ahead and do it. For me, though, I am going to start with, I feel like, an underrated Kentucky moment. I feel like it's just something that I really remember, and it actually is the 2014 championship game whenever we played UConn, and it is going to be James Young's poster dunk. I don't know if you all remember that, but man, I thought that was just a great moment because obviously that was whenever we was the 8th seed, and we had the Terrence Jones, James Young, the two Harrison twins. It was kind of where we was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we've made it here on that run of unbelievable shot making. But then James Young goes down the middle. We did lose the game, but it was just a good, memorable moment for me. And then probably my favorite moment that is not a Kentucky moment is the 2016 national championship game, North Carolina and Villanova.
Yep.
Chris Jenkins hitting that last second shot. And there's a lot of reasons why I picked that. One being like if you are Chris Jenkins, you are just an absolute college basketball March Madness legend. You know that your shot is going to be played for the rest of time. You couldn't have drawn it up any better with it being a last second shot in the national championship game where you have your opponent who just came down and hit a clutch double pump three. Who was it again? Was it Marshall Henderson? No, was Marshall Henderson?
Marcus Page.
Marcus Page, yeah. Marcus Page comes down and just, perfect ending to a great script. And then also for me, the reason why I picked it is because we were sitting in college. We were sitting in Colton and Chance's dorm, me, Mason, Colton, and Chance. And I think Alex Shellhart maybe was there, maybe one or two more.
Yeah.
But man, that is one that I was just like, we were going crazy because we wanted North Carolina to lose so bad. But that I just feel like storybook ending for him, just that will be played for the rest of the time, like I said. So those were my two really big March Madness moments. I didn't want to take any big ones because I wanted to save those for you all. Mason, I'm going to send it over to you. What is one or two memorable March Madness moments for you?
That was one of mine as well. Was the Chris Jenkins Villanova shot. Just because, I mean, one, like you said, what an incredible shot. And two, like we were in college, we were living our best life. I think when he hit the shot, I remember like running out in the hallway and screaming, running up and down the hallway. So that was really fun. But then my second one kind of leads into what yours was as well. That run we had with Aaron Harrison and all those shots he hit. I remember at that time I think it was the Louisville game. I was getting ready to go on a cruise, and one of my best friends, like his family was with us as well, and he was a Louisville fan. And so we made a bet on the game, like if Kentucky won, then he had to wear Kentucky gear the rest of the week on the cruise, and if Louisville won, I had to wear Louisville gear. So it was awesome seeing him walk around in Kentucky gear all week too, and getting to rub that in his face a little bit. But I mean, one of the most memorable runs I think for any of us, especially like our age group of people. How fun that was! Just getting. This is the point where he always hits it, and of course he hits another one. So that was my big one.
Trey, yours might be a little bit older than ours. You know, you got a little bit of age on us, so I didn't know if you'd be throwing something more recent. But what is something, one or two memorable moments for you? Which is good because I'm glad that like you might be able to throw a different perspective here on some things if you chose one.
I'm actually going to give you three.
Okay.
Two of them are Kentucky, and one of them's not Kentucky. The first one is probably my earliest memory of March Madness, and it's the one. And I remember watching Leitner drill that shot. So the heartbreak of that one. But to come back in '98, when we played Duke, and we're coming back, and to see the walk on Cameron Mills hit that three at the top of the key. I think it's the only shot he made maybe all tournament that year. And him fist pumped. That was big for a Kentucky kid. I think I was 11 or 12 at the time when he hit that shot. So but a little later on, I was going to Western at the time and was on campus in Bowling Green. Sorry, Colton, get that one? I was on campus at the time when Ty Rogers hit that last second shot, and I'm telling you, man, campus, there was people running in the streets and going.
It was against Drake, wasn't it?
It was unreal. Like people coming out of, frat houses, and we were renting a house, and, people just going crazy all over campus. So that's a non-Kentucky one.
That's a good one.
It was a good one.
Yep.
Jeez.
Did I steal that one from you?
You did. I thought I was going to pull one. I
Man.
thought I was going to pull it. I was like, oh man. I knew though when you said I got one that's not Kentucky, I was like, I mean, dang, he's going to
Well,
pull the
before that,
Western
I'll
one
give you
out.
another one. Bryce Drew, when he hit that shot for Valpo, we had a play back in high school that was called Valpo. It was our end of game, long full court play that we ran.
Okay.
We called it Valpo after the
So,
Bryce Drew shot.
I'm gonna give two, one Kentucky, and I'm gonna say the Patrick Sparks, the one to tie up Michigan State to send it into overtime. Obviously, we ended up losing, but it's crazy because I think it was storming or something that night, or I can't remember, but anyhow, the shot, like I saw it missed. Patrick Sparks got it up, and he did the little pump fake in the air, like double hang, and shot it, and my electricity went out. Like, no kidding. And I can remember that as plain as day. And I was like, oh my goodness, what happened? And come back on. And they were in overtime. Like, they kept showing it. Like, he hit the shot. And we was like, oh my goodness. Like, I was just laying there on the floor. Obviously, we ended up losing that. But I remember that all the time as Patrick Sparks shot. But the other one is not Kentucky. And I remember it too, watching Mario Chalmers hit a 3 to tie up the game against Memphis. And watch Derrick Rose and then miss free throws coming down the stretch, and Kansas end up winning that game. But I can remember Mario Chalmers kind of fading to his, I think it was to his left, but he actually makes it like such a tough shot to tie it up. And really, they had no reason being in it, but Memphis missed like 7 out of 8 free throws or something coming down the stretch, something crazy, and he hit that shot. So those two I can remember like very plainly.
Did on the Patrick Sparks, I guess I just completely forgot that was actually in March Madness. I just for some reason always thought it was regular season. I don't know why.
I think that was it may have even been an Elite Eight game.
It's Elite Eight
Sweet
game.
16 or Elite 8.
Sweet 16.
No, it was an Elite Eight game, and then we ended up. It ended up going. Was it overtime or double overtime?
Overtime. Well, at least overtime. I think it was overtime.
I remember it too. I was so mad.
Yeah.
Well, those are all
very
great.
Go to school before Kentucky.
Do what?
Where did he go to school?
Muhlenberg County.
He's from Muhlenberg. He lived right next to my best
where
friend's
did he
cousin.
go? Where did he go before Kentucky, though?
You talking about college?
Yeah.
I didn't know he transferred.
Ooh.
Western.
Center.
Yes.
Center?
No, Western.
I thought it was Western.
I'm pretty sure he played with that big guy. What was his? Chris Robinson was his name. They were good. Probably one of their last best teams. Outside of it. Rogers followed him up, I think.
Man, that was a good one on the Ty Rogers, because I remember that too.
Yeah, man, I was getting ready to go in on Courtney Lee and that whole bunch. Man, because they won the next game too.
Valdez.
They won the next game too, and then got beaten in the Sweet 16, I think.
To UCLA.
They went on to the championship game, and ended up getting beat to
Was
Florida.
that Russell
right?
Westbrook?
Yeah.
Darren Collison?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we have one of those moments, and it's not against us, and we are the ones having those moments, if there is one. All right, well, let's get into the last segment of tonight's show. It is going to be, what does life look like after this season for Kentucky? Now, obviously, we want this season to continue on for 6 more games. We want it to go on and advance to be the hang banner number 9. But ultimately, there's going to be a next page. So let's spend about maybe 5 to 10 minutes on what your perspective on, like, where do we go from here? What is going to be the reaction? What should be the reaction? And kind of just go wherever you want with it. Treg, as far as this Kentucky team, whenever this season does come to an end, what does life look like after the fact for Kentucky basketball?
Well, I think the start of it depends on how far we go in this tournament. If we go one and done, if we do get beat by Santa Clara, the amount of pressure that Pope's going to have on him it's going to be as much or more than Cal had on his last year there. Just simply because, once again, the standard. But as far as going forward, I know there's reports of this guy that he had at BYU coming on board as a front office position. We definitely got to hire a GM. I know y'all have talked about that at length, and maybe there's something to Tayshaun being at a lot of these games. That would be interesting to me.
That would get me so excited.
I
mean,
if I'm not mistaken, does he not got some experience with scouting and things of that sort?
Yeah,
Grizzlies.
Memphis.
He was in the Grizzlies front office.
So,
Yeah.
that becomes interesting now. Ultimately, all this is still going to fall on Pope. So how does he construct this roster next year? And I wonder too about the boosters. Is the money going to stay similar? Are they going to pony up a little more? Are they going to pony up a little less? I think all those are valid questions going forward. I don't think, with him being a former alum, I don't see him dropping the number. But did they add to it? I don't know. And, who do we retain? Who comes back from this roster? Who doesn't? I think all those are questions. And, obviously, what does Stokes do? I touched on a lot there. Probably didn't leave y'all much, but y'all can add on to it.
Yeah, I'm going to go on, add on, and then let them. I think for me, the biggest thing whenever you look at it and just in the sense of, okay, flipping the script for next year, it starts with recruiting. I think that is one of the biggest things. You look at, okay, in March and going into April, the NCAA tournament is okay, I got to pull up. Yeah, it's played on Monday, April 6th. Okay. You all know when the transfer portal opens?
April
the very
7th.
next day, April 7th. So
When's the
That's
last
ridiculous.
signing day? Isn't it April 15th? Like, doesn't Stokes have to make a decision by the 15th?
Something
Am I
like
wrong
that.
about that?
I don't know
would think
when.
he's got longer than that. Why
Look
would
it
he
up,
have
Mason.
longer than that?
Look it up, Mason. But anyways, I mean, like, so as soon, and that's it. Like, even so, if we get bounced before then, if we miraculously make it to the NCAA championship game, whenever it is, recruiting it doesn't end. So ultimately, you have who said Braden Hawthorne is coming back. There's been talks of, obviously, Stokes is still, it's maybe heated up even more than it was supposed to. You have that Dyke in the G League, but you have, I'll say this real quick. I was at the SEC tournament on Wednesday, and you're looking at that, and you're sitting there, and I was talking to with a Florida fan, and we was talking about some of these guards. You take a Hubbard at Mississippi State. You talk about who is Auburn's Pettiford. You talk about these guards that, that those could be some guys that could be in the transfer portal that could possibly be playing on your team next year. You never know. So I think that it ultimately starts with the recruiting, and you've got to go in and land some guys quick and soon. I'll turn it over to you, Mason, and then we'll get to Colton.
Just real quick on that signing period, the final signing period begins on April 15th and runs until late April / early May. So he'll probably have till the end of April, first week of May. It doesn't give an exact date, but that's when it starts, is April 15th for that final signing period. I agree with what both of y'all said, Treg. I think it does have a little bit to do with, obviously what we do in the tournament this year, and how far we go and finish out the season. But I also think that this Kentucky fan base is just so hungry and eager to get back to the top, right? Like, it's been a while. We got used to being there. It's been a while. So I think next year it comes down to, like, one, Dylan, like you said, recruiting, right? Can Pope land a couple of these guys, and can we prove that, we are one of the best teams in the country throughout the year, right? Like, I think we have to be in that top 6 to 8 team range consistently throughout the year, and then we have to come out and do something in the tournament next year. Because I think, like I said, we just went through a drought for so long. Kentucky fans aren't really used to this, and we want to be back at the top. We want to be the Mecca. We want to be the standard, and we haven't gotten there. So I think next year it's really a do or die for Pope, unless he just decides to make some miracle run this year. Especially if he comes out and whiffs on Stokes, and then he whiffs in the transfer portal again. Like, next season's it, buddy. Like, you better hope you bring in some guys who just fit your system really well, and we're just playing really well. But I think next year is a make or break for Pope.
Hey, let me say something about Stokes too. I think I think Kentucky will force him to make a decision sooner rather than later because of that portal opening. They're going to shove that money. Either you take it or we're going to spend it on the transfer portal. I mean, he's got to make a decision at some point.
Yep.
What, are you taking our NIL package or what? Or you going to Kansas? So I think we'll know pretty soon on him. I'll be surprised.
Trey is cracking me up right now. My man is going through bottles of water. I mean,
Man,
like
I'm sweating, man. It gets hot in this office. I'll tell you. I got a TV, computer going, sweating bullets.
Oh man. Colton,
Damn.
what does life look like after this? And I actually, you know what, Colton, I want you to take it from a different perspective. I want you to take it not so much from the Pope perspective that we did. Talk about the Kentucky fan base perspective. I feel like you have always been the positive guy, looking at like, okay, this is what we have to be and need to be. What maybe needs to change? What will reality look like? Ultimately, we'd love for it to be different, but what's it actually going to be like, and what's it going to look like?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing about what you were probably seeing with a lot of the fan base, and what I experienced myself with the hardest thing in the first 2 years of this era and watching the first two teams is that we got so used to seeing a team for the majority of the years that Cal was here that when they were at their best, we were like, hey, like they could win it all. Right. And I just don't think we've seen that in the first two teams. And as a fan base, we enjoy we've enjoyed some of the upset wins, if you want to call that, like when we beat Duke last year and we beat Gonzaga. Like those are like, oh man, we were like the underdog, which is what we hadn't been used to feeling for several years. And now I think there's a realistic feeling amongst the fan base that was like, okay, those games are fun, but I also want to hang around that top 5, top 10 all year long like we used to. I don't want to be consistently barely getting into the top 25, being out of the top 25. Like, I think you have to, like, I think the fan base is now wanting that type of product that when we play the Dukes and we play the Gonzaga, like, there's no more getting beat by 40 to Gonzaga in Bridgestone. Like, that's can't happen anymore. Now you've been here long enough to get your recruiting. You've got the money. The transfer portal is pretty much just free agency. You have no excuse to being at the University of Kentucky to not put together a team that the fan base can look at and say, when they are playing their best basketball, they could possibly win the championship. And that's all I really want. I want to see that we have a team on the court that when they're at their best, I really feel like they can win it all. I don't want to rely on no Cinderella run. I don't want to rely on just, but they love the university, so we're just gonna play with a bunch of kids who love the university. No, I want to see true talent that at their best they're as good as anyone. And I don't think we've seen it the first 2 years. Not that we haven't had some good wins, but the first two teams' best has not been better than several teams' other best, and that's just not acceptable at Kentucky.
Yeah. So I mean, you don't feel like we have the best of the best in this tournament? Like we're going to have to make a Cinderella run?
I mean, yeah, 100%. No, we do not have the best of the best. It will be
No,
a Cinderella run. The thing is, like that when we went as an 8 seed with the Harrison twins. If you look back, we won pretty much every SEC home game that year, and they were good players. They just struggled on the road as freshmen and everything else. but we had the play, and you knew everything else was going to be a home game in the NCAA tournament, right? So that year I could remember filling out my bracket for them to win it all. I truly felt that way as an 8 seed because I felt like on a neutral court they were as good as anyone in the country with the players we had. I don't feel like that with this team. I don't, as a 7 seed, I don't feel like that is this team. But I'm excited if they make a run. I do think that we play hard. I think that we can muck it up a little bit. If we can make enough threes and not shoot terribly, maybe we can. I'm all for it, and I would love to go on one of those type of runs. I'm here for it. It'll be a surprise if we do. I'll say that.
I think at the end of the day, though, like you said there, what it comes down to for this team right now, based on watching them in the SEC, it comes down to making shots. I think that our defense played very well enough to beat anybody. Just got to make some shots. And I truly mean that. I thought that the intensity was there, but at the end of the day, when it come down to the floor, we didn't make some shots. Mason, you look like you wanted to say something before we close.
No, I agree completely. I think it just comes down to making shots. Because like you said, Dylan, I mean, you look at you pointed this out the other day, but you look at the Vandy game against Florida and our game against Florida, like stat line, it was almost identical, right? Like Florida had a bunch of turnovers. They out rebounded Vandy by 15 to 20. Vandy just made shots. That was the only difference. Right. So I mean, like we've said it all season long. We can beat anybody, but that's what it comes down to. It comes down to us being able to make shots.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to fill out your bracket challenge to receive some merchandise. Be on the lookout for some new reels on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. This has been another episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. And as always, especially this time of the year, go Cats.
Okay.
Go Cats.
That's a wrap for this episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, be on the lookout for our social media pages and be sure to follow them. We've got plenty more stories, insights, and conversations coming your way. And if you really loved it, make sure to share it with a friend. From the hills to the hollers, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep that Kentucky spirit strong.